This is Tom Meyer, Superintendent, Bellevue Community School District in Bellevue, Iowa, coming to you with this week's Comet highlights. I believe in the blue update from our last board meeting this week. Just want to give you a few other updates on the school year starting and everything like that. So starting off with the board highlights, we had some recommendations to hire, and they were Pete Boniface as an associate substitute teacher, Brandy Bailey, who's also an associate, and she will be at the middle school, high school. Both those are. And then with two elementary associates we hired this year as well, Lori Feller and Jane Steinis. Then along with Casey Scrifseth as an extra cleaning person who, getting into COVID-19 and keeping every room clean and disinfected, Casey goes around to the buildings daily and sprays buildings with our electrostatic sprayers that way. We also are spraying buses, playground equipment, things like that, lunchroom areas, everything like that where kids are. So kind of know those are some steps that we're taking as we get into COVID-19. We also talked some about how we are teaching students when they are in quarantine with online lessons at the middle school, high school, joining into classes. That is a requirement from the state. That way that students join in, we make that available for students as well. I know we have had some students quarantined based on some exposure to someone who has tested positive, whether in school or out of school that way. We also talked about some changes to schedules that way. Our volleyball team did not have any games this week based on a quarantine for them. We talked about homecoming. We are not having a homecoming dance right now. We're planning to have that dance later on this school year, just so you know, and that's a big thing for students, that when we want to be able to provide that, but we also do not want to offer a homecoming dance or a dance right now where social distancing cannot be maintained. And I encourage everyone in the community to recognize that as well. That's another reason for not having the homecoming parade, people congregating. Yes, I know we're having events, but there's also room to space out. I encourage everyone when they're at events, whether that's school or other places, to please give yourself social distancing. Please wear a mask, cover your nose, and then if you cough, sneeze, cover that, obviously. All those kind of things really strongly recommended. When I talk about quarantining, we have done contact tracing here in the building with different people to see how close they were to someone. Are they meeting the CDC guidelines for need to be quarantined? And that's within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes. That way, from athletic teams to classrooms to whatever the case may be, things are analyzed very carefully using the guidelines from the Iowa Department of Public Health. The Jackson County Department of Health is contacted that way, talking about where we're at with the process. Multiple people in the buildings are involved with that, including administration, the school nurse, and then obviously talking to teachers and talking to students as well. So just so you kind of recognize those things. We're also looking at an increase in expenses this year just based on COVID-19 and making sure we're taking care of some of these things. And that's something that I talked to the board about at this point. We're estimating at this point, with increase in staffing and the things we've bought already, we're right around $150,000 extra. That number is only going to increase as the year goes on with different supplies, cleaning supplies and things like that. We do have staffing accounted for in that number currently. A positive is last year we saved roughly around $300,000, so we do have a little bit of funding there to look at that way. I was talking about employees, staffing in schools and everything like that. That way, if a family member of a staff member has tested positive, we are having that person stay home, otherwise quarantining staff. If they're essential employees and teachers are, they can come back if we deem that necessary based on staffing, based on state guidelines. Try to stay away from that in many ways, but we also look at the situation and analyze where we are at that time as well. Some people have asked me just in the last few days in regard to, is the school going to close? There's no plans to close the school for one thing. The state of Iowa has made it very clear we need to have a certain attendance rate met of more than 10%. We have to have a certain positivity rate in the county that way of 15 to 20%. So we're not at those areas yet. We will try to do everything we possibly can to keep the school open on a daily basis like we are right now in a face-to-face environment. I want everyone to know that. There is no plan to do that. I heard a rumor earlier this week that the schools in Jackson County were all closing. That is not accurate. That has not been talked about. I don't know where that came from, but just so you know, I want to ensure everyone that at this point, there's no plan to do that. Our plan is to keep students in school based on their educational needs and also to help out families and everything like that as well. Talking about enrollment this year, we knew was going to be down a little bit, and it is down about 10 to 15 students that way based on a graduating class in the mid to upper 60s and an incoming kindergarten in the low to mid 50s. So we're down a little bit that way. That still changes, obviously, as the year goes on as well. So just recognizing that. Summer project and facilities update. One thing I did, they are on our website right now. I have about 5 videos there showing the middle school, high school building and the elementary building, what classrooms look like with students in them. I can take all the pictures I want. I can take it with students in or without students in, but sometimes you need to see it with students in there and what's happening. So there's some online recordings, videos of classrooms that way, walking down the hallway, looking in the classrooms and stuff. So feel free to look at those. Those are under the district page. Under superintendent, you'll see those there. Talked about the Iowa Association of School Board Conference being virtual this year, kind of Comet reading and reflection, and that reading there is learning lost when kids are out of school. And there is some research out there saying, oh yeah, kids lose a lot. I'm not saying they do not lose some learning when they're gone, but there are other valuable things that they're learning as well. And that's one thing the article talks about, is there are a lot of things that people are learning when they're out of school. But we also need to keep them engaged in school and have school for students. So take a look at that article. It's part of the Comet highlights that way. Information items, I talked about extracurricular activities. We talked about homecoming just a little bit ago that way, but we also talked about home football games, and we are encouraging, in order to get in the gate, you need to have a mask on. When we tell you you need to have that on when you're not social distancing. At home volleyball games and away volleyball games, you have to have a mask on for our conference schools the whole time. That was just so you're aware of that. Getting back to homecoming a little bit, we are still having a homecoming week here, homecoming activities with games and things like that for students in grades 9 through 12. So there is some homecoming activities happening, just not the dance and not the parade. Everything else is going to be as normal as we can make it that way. And like I said, we will be rescheduling the homecoming dance at some other time that way, with a winter or spring formal, something like that prior to prom. Also, another big news item that I put out there earlier this week on social media and emails to parents was the free lunch program that the state is offering. Actually, nationally, the United States Department of Agriculture has offered up funding for all schools nationwide. We don't get a certain amount of funding, but we just serve meals and then we get reimbursed for those that way. So that is a free meals for everyone, and that will start in the Bellevue Community School District at both the elementary building and the middle school, high school building on Monday, September 21. So that was kind of the board meeting. I did want to tell you just a couple things too, and I know you've heard this before more than likely, but I need to say it again. We want to keep our students healthy who are in school here and out of school and beyond. And that is not just a school effort, it's a community effort. It's making sure that we're watching where we're at and what we're doing is social distancing, wearing a mask, and not hosting large gatherings, not doing things like that that can be detrimental to students eventually attending school. That way we can do what we want here, but we really need community support, including parents and others, in helping to stop the other gatherings that could happen that way. And when we talk about symptoms that way, if you have a new cough, a shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, or a new loss of taste or smell, that is one symptom. Those are 3 symptoms separately, but if you have one of those, you need to stay home and consult a medical professional. And then also, if you have 2 of the following, from a fever, headache, body or muscle aches, diarrhea, vomiting, sore throat, fatigue, runny nose, congestion, nausea, I think are the ones. I think I have those memorized actually. If you have 2 of those, you need to consult a medical professional and stay home as well. And we need a note from a medical professional or a negative COVID test saying that you're okay to come back to school. We do recognize that this is a hardship sometimes, but I will tell you that it's the guidance we have from the Iowa Department of Education, Iowa Department of Public Health, and we need to follow that. So just recognizing that. We want students in school, do not get us wrong. If your student is homesick that way, waiting on a test or whatever the case may be, we will provide learning for them at home that way. At the middle school, high school, that's through live online lessons to join into. At the elementary, that may be live, sometimes it may be recorded. At the elementary, also recognize this is not 7 hours straight or 8 hours straight of continuous learning. There are little chunks in there too. So just recognizing that. But on that note, I hope everyone has a great day, a great week. We have a home football game tonight. Have a good one, everyone.